a stirring tribute to a man of faith.
Daniel understood the reality of good and evil.
A man of hope.
He wanted to make a difference in the lives of people.
A man of the law.
It's not just that he stepped forward and put on a badge, it's how he wore the badge.
A grieving community honors a husband, friend, father, and deputy. Daniel McCartney, lost in the line of duty.
Heaven gained a powerful warrior and a true superhero.
Out of service, gone, but not forgotten.
1,500 first responders packed into Olson Auditorium at Pacific Lutheran University to say a final farewell to Deputy Dan McCartney, who was shot and killed less than 2 weeks ago.
And before the memorial, people lined the streets in Pierce County to salute a lengthy procession, which included the fallen deputy's casket.
We have team coverage for you tonight, beginning with KOMO's Keith Eldridge, who is live at PLU tonight. Keith?
Yeah, the weather really indicative of the mood here. The gray skies this morning, and then as the memorial went on, it turned to rain, and many people, as they exited, talking about those raindrops as tears. This is a time to honor the sacrifice of Deputy McCartney and to honor all law enforcement and all first responders.
These are people who risk their lives so that you and all that you hold dear may be safe and secure. Look at these people.
And Sheriff Paul Pastor said, look at the families who don't know if their loved ones will come home at night. For Sierra, Titus, Tate, and Traxton, their loved one did not come home. Deputy McCartney died in a gun battle with a home invasion robbery suspect.
This world clearly lost a shining light in Daniel. But heaven gained a powerful warrior and a true superhero.
It was a dangerous profession that he chose. After serving in the U.S. Navy aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, McCartney entered law enforcement as an officer in Hoquiam.
Because Daniel McCartney, son, brother, husband, father, and peace officer, made so many big ripples in so many ponds. If you look around you right now, you'll see all of Daniel McCartney's small ponds have come together here today to honor his life.
Then continued his service to the community as a deputy sheriff, a public servant, a husband, a father, a man of deep faith.
It wasn't a religion. It was a personal, intimate relationship with his Creator.
And a last radio call.
Out of service, gone, but not forgotten.
Yeah, that radio call, last radio call, really has a chilling effect on everyone who was in there today. As for the family, there was a final procession away from here to a small private reception just for the family and some close friends. And then the body of Deputy McCartney was taken back to Mountain View Cemetery to await a final private ceremony and burial. Reporting live at PLU, Keith Eldridge, KOMO News.
Thank you, Keith. And such a large contingent of law enforcement and first responders came to the memorial today, some 1,500 officers, that members of the public had to be turned away from Olson Memorial Auditorium, rather. Instead, they watched the service via live stream from other buildings on the PLU campus.
By order of Governor Jay Inslee, flags at all state agencies were lowered to half staff in honor of Deputy McCartney. The governor encouraged businesses, schools, and others to do the same. And the show of support and appreciation began long before the memorial for Deputy Daniel McCartney started. Law enforcement from across the state and Canada joined a long procession, and the public lined the streets to pay their respects. KOMO's Patrick Quinn joins us live from Tacoma. Patrick, it was incredible to see all those people lined up, wasn't it?
It really was, Eric. It was somber, but you could also really feel a sense of strength. Take a look at this message behind me of this local business saying, "Rest in peace, Deputy McCartney," just one of many signs of support we saw along the procession. From the sky, you can see its scope. To the ground, you feel the grief.
You know, his wife and then his 3 boys are not going to get to know their father.
As the procession began, officers stood at attention behind the fence at JVLM. Along the streets, signs and flags to remind the friends and family of Deputy Daniel McCartney they're not alone.
that the loss wasn't for nothing, that everyone in the community, we're going to support them no matter what.
Jennifer Acevedo is married to a Renton police officer. She knows of the sacrifice Daniel McCartney made and pulled her daughter out of school to make sure she knew it too.
I don't want any more bad people in the world.
Young and old, some stood alone, all mourned together. The man who gave his life protecting their community.
Police is for our safety, so, I have to believe in police officers. You have to believe in something.
Into Spanaway, as the procession crossed Military Road, we saw more salutes to the Navy veteran. On the roads, 1,500 personnel in some 650 vehicles.
Priest Harbor, Elma.
The silent sirens blinked down Spanaway, north on Pacific, ending at Pacific Lutheran University, a community grieving for a man gone too soon. And you saw the hat on top of that riderless horse. Deputy Daniel McCartney wore many hats. You've heard about some of them already tonight. A father, a friend, husband, deputy. He was a veteran, now gone from this community, but boy, did we see how much this community will miss him. Live in Tacoma, Patrick Quinn, Como News.
Patrick, thank you. And one of the stops along today's procession route was Blue Steel Coffee in Parkland, formerly known as Forza Coffee, and that's the same cafe where 4 Lakewood police officers were killed in an ambush in 2009. A tribute to those officers still hangs on the wall. Among the people who turned out to show their respect to Deputy McCartney was Susan Beals, who's married to a retired police officer.
When this happens, we all in our hearts know it could have been us. So obviously my pain can't be as deep as the family's, but I definitely share that pain.
Blue Steel Coffee will donate 100% of the tips it receives today to Deputy McCartney's wife and children. Tonight, on opposite coasts, 2 starkly different outcomes in cases of school violence. In Florida, more than a dozen people killed in a high school shooting rampage.
I heard 5 pops, and I was like, that's not a drill.
Honestly, I'm still in shock. I don't know whether it'll hit me tonight or tomorrow.
But in Everett, a well-timed tip helps police stop a similar attack before the suspect could carry out his deadly plans. Hello, everybody. We'll have more on that foiled shooting plot in Everett in a moment, but we begin with the horrible situation out of Florida.
At least 17 people are dead and more than a dozen others hurt after a school shooting in Parkland, west of Boca Raton. The shooter, identified as 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, is in police custody tonight.
Como's Morgan Chesky is following developments from the live desk. What's the latest, Morgan?
Well, I can tell you that right now multiple victims are currently in surgery in what's become the deadliest school shooting since Sandy Hook. And we also have new video just in tonight showing the massive police response when those shots did ring out. This cell phone footage from inside a classroom shows the SWAT team, guns up, sweeping that school for the gunman. And when the shots rang out, many students sheltered in place for nearly an hour before being able to make it outside to safety. Sources close to this investigation say the suspect pulled a fire alarm to draw people outside. That's when the sheriff says he opened fire with an AR-15 rifle, shooting his victims before blending into the chaos to attempt an escape. Tonight, a teacher at Stoneman Douglas told the Miami Herald before being expelled the suspect was not allowed on campus with a backpack and had been identified as a potential threat in the past. Today, survivors described bodies in classrooms and gunshots ringing through hallways.
And I just ran, and I had my book bag on my back just in case I got shot from the back. It would go through my book bags and my books. I ran to where there were students and teachers, and
on the seal.
And we went to Westmead, and then from there I knew it was a real shooting because I saw 3 helicopters.
The sheriff of Broward County is set to start a briefing at any moment now. We'll keep you posted as soon as we learn more. But as of right now, no motive is known. Mary?
Thank you, Morgan. Even if the death toll stays put in today's shooting, it is already among the worst at a school in the U.S. 32 people died in a shooting massacre at Virginia Tech University in 2007. 5 years later, 26 students and staff at Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut were murdered. And in 1999, 15 people died in a shooting at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, including the 2 teenage attackers. Today, on the floor of the U.S. Senate, Democrat Chris Murphy passionately spoke about a lack of a solution to the gun violence in the U.S.
That this happens nowhere else
other than the United States of America, this epidemic of mass slaughter, this scourge of school shooting after school shooting. It only happens here not because of coincidence, not because of bad luck, but as a consequence of our inaction.
According to the nonprofit group Every Town for Gun Safety, there have now been 18 school shootings across the country this year. In 8 of those shootings, no one was hurt. Count on the Como News Network for continuing coverage on the Florida school shooting. We'll have any new developments throughout this newscast, and then tonight at 11 o'clock, as well as in the days and weeks ahead. You can also get updates on Como News Radio and online at comonews.com.
I'm going to ask my colleagues to try to hear what I'm saying.
A controversial vote shouted down by angry constituents.
What has changed so drastically in the past month about our housing crisis?
Facing a public backlash.
You guys have wasted hundreds of millions of dollars. We are done with it.
The Seattle City Council does an about-face with its tax on big business.
The council needs more backbone.
But with emotions running high, the fallout is far from over.
Seriously, the is wrong with y'all?
On May 14th, the Seattle City Council unanimously passed a tax on big business with a vote of 9-0.
Today, just 29 days later, the council repealed the tax, casting new uncertainty over how Seattle plans to deal with the homeless crisis.
On a gray December morning, the steely gaze of Don James peers out from beneath his cap. The architect of past glory, ready to embrace the next era of Husky greatness, and perhaps he has found it. Greatness in a coach that has rebuilt a program into a powerhouse. Greatness in an offense that has rewritten the record books. Greatness in the seniors who never tasted defeat to their cross-state rival. Greatness in a Washington Husky team that won its second Pac-12 title in 3 years. And secured a return to the granddaddy of them all. Welcome to Como 4's Road to the Roses. It has been nearly 2 decades since the Huskies played in the Rose Bowl. The 2018 season certainly had some ups and downs for the Dogs, but they never wavered on one of their biggest goals. Here's a look back at how the Dogs punched their ticket to Pasadena.
A visionary in business and philanthropy and science, a savior of the Northwest sports scene, an unabashed pop culture fanatic, and that's just the beginning.
He redefined what big thinking was for me.
Paul Allen, whose influence and imprint can be felt from Seattle to the farthest reaches of the planet, is dead at 65 years old. Just 2 weeks ago, Paul Allen announced that he was once again battling non-Hodgkin's lymphoma following his initial diagnosis back in 2009.
At the time, Mr. Allen said that he was optimistic about his recovery, but earlier today, he lost his fight. The legacy he leaves behind is nothing short of remarkable. He changed Seattle, changed the world. He saved the Seahawks, was a philanthropist with few equals, played rock guitar, had the biggest yacht in the world, was one of the richest people in the world. And yet, he was a shy, humble, unassuming man who made the world a better place quietly, gently.
You're 53 years old, just had a birthday, right?
Yes.
And never been married. Is that something that you see, a family and a wife in your future?
It's certainly something, I'd like to have a family, but we'll see.
Paul Gardner Allen was born in 1953. He met a friend at Lakeside School, a kid who was 2 years younger. His name was Bill Gates, and the two of them shared a passion for technology and computers. He scored a perfect 1,600 on his SATs and went to Washington State University.
If you really believe in your idea.
After 2 years, he dropped out to begin a career as a programmer. And then in 1975, he and Bill Gates co-founded Microsoft, a company that would change the shape of the future of the world. It would amass for him a personal wealth of over $20 billion. He eventually left Microsoft and started a company called Vulcan, and he set about reshaping the city of Seattle. Before he was finished, South Lake Union would be transformed into a hotbed of growth and change.
To be part of that, to be patient, to see all those things happen over a period of time and do something good for the city, that's great.
So it's patience that you say, that's your virtue?
Sometimes, some things, especially in real estate development or sports franchises, you have to be patient, and hopefully one day your ship comes out.
He bought the Portland Trailblazers 30 years ago, and in 1996, the Seattle Seahawks were as good as gone. The trucks were packed, and they were headed for Los Angeles.
If you vote yes,
Paul Allen stepped in, bought the team in the 12th hour, and eventually guided them to a Super Bowl championship. He lived life the way so many of us would imagine ourselves living if we were incredibly wealthy. He put together a rock band, put out a CD, and played guitar.
Let the experience begin.
He built the Experience Music Project as a temple of rock and roll. He saved the Cinerama Theater, where he'd watched Star Wars as a boy, and he turned it into a state-of-the-art moviegoer's dream.
The goal here is to try to recapture some of that same feeling of going to a theater and seeing a movie as an event. And also to try to do some innovative things.
He studied artificial intelligence. He sent crews to the bottom of the ocean to pull up sunken ships from the past. He gave more than $2 billion away in his lifetime and quite literally changed the world as we know it. Paul Allen was 65 years old when he lost his battle with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. We could talk about him all day long and still just scratch the surface of what he accomplished and his impact in the world. What a life.
And I can't help but notice, Eric, on social media and Facebook, you have CEOs and the heads of companies tweeting their condolences, and also they say one thing over and over again, their thoughts are with the people in Microsoft. But if you read that locally and you live in this area, you know there's so much of Paul Allen beyond Microsoft. It wasn't just that he co-founded Microsoft.
Yes.
He really brought this city to life. And it's stunning to know.
And how many people can you really honestly say their imagination knew no boundaries? That guy, Paul Allen.
Truly the case. Grief and shock. Those are the words being used at Vulcan tonight, the umbrella company overseeing everything Paul Allen was involved in. KOMO's Matt Markovich is at Vulcan headquarters, where he spoke with the company's CEO. Matt?
That's right, Mary. Employees and everyone here associated with Vulcan is deeply saddened. Paul Allen's employees and ventures are not just located here at the 505 Union Station, but they're spread out literally around the world. And from the 9th floor was his office, where he would direct billions, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases, to fulfill his vision of trying to make the world a better place.
He redefined what big thinking was for me. I've never met anyone in my life who wanted to do so much good in the world in such a big way.
Bill Hilf expresses the opinions of many who have worked with Paul Allen. Allen put his personal wealth in Vulcan that had both business and philanthropy interests. Details provided by Hilf of Allen's passing were few, just that he died this morning of complications of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, something he was treated for in 2009, but announced just 2 weeks ago it had returned. Hilf called his death sudden.
Paul was very actively involved with the work that we do here, and so a lot of shock and a lot of grief right now.
Hilf says Paul Allen had a remarkable intellect and a passion to solve some of the world's most difficult problems, with the conviction that creative thinking and new approaches could make a profound and lasting impact. Allen has always been a deeply private person, and it comes as no surprise that his condition was kept private, because his work and that of Vulcan is what mattered to him most. Hilf says his vision will be fulfilled.
Paul had a tremendously huge vision on how to improve the world. And a big part of our forward plans are to help realize that vision and to continue what he wanted to get done. And that's how we're rallying together today and this week and the next weeks to carry that banner into the future for him.
Now, a spokesperson says his death is too fresh to speak about any memorial plans. She said his family will make the ultimate decision to decide if any memorial service will be open to the public. Reporting live in Seattle, Matt Markovich, KOMO News.
Governor Jay Inslee released a statement about Paul Allen that reads in part, quote, Paul Allen stands as a giant in Washington history for the genius vision that was so important to creating Microsoft with Bill Gates. That he went on to do so much more for our state, nation, and the world puts him in rarefied company. It goes on to say Paul was a person who pushed so many intellectual envelopes and expanded human knowledge, and his legacy will live beyond bricks and mortar. In so many ways, Paul Allen personified Washington state, innovative, caring, and always willing to fight for equal rights for all. And from Senator Patty Murray, he leaves a legacy of compassion, innovation, and heart that none of us will soon forget, and all of us will honor. It was a joy to know Paul and see his incredible drive and incredible heart, and he will be missed by me and so many others.
Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson adding his name to the list of people sharing their tribute to Paul Allen tonight. I want to show you a tweet that he just put out a few minutes ago saying, "We have lost a friend and a giant. Mr. Allen, thank you for your extraordinary vision, your abundant generosity, and for believing in all of us. By your example, you made us all better, kinder. May you rest in peace. Go Hawks." And we're also hearing from Mopop Seattle saying, "Our founder let us fly with superheroes. He showed us that we could create beautiful music of our own. He inspired us to look to the stars. Today we mourn the passing of Paul G. Allen."
And local leaders have a lot to say about the death, but more importantly, the life and legacy of Paul Allen. KOMO's Joel Marino is live in Seattle with more. Joel?
Eric met with King County Councilmember Pete Von Reichbauer a few moments ago, and he echoed the sentiment that if it weren't for Paul Allen, there would be no Seattle Seahawks. He said Allen understood how sports is a language that can bridge communities, and he set about to make it his business to bring that into reality. Now, when we were in Von Reichbauer's office, he showed us a commemorative football that Allen gave him to mark 2 decades of owning the Seattle Seahawks. Von Reichbauer says he approached Allen about buying the team when no one else would. The rest is history. One memory in particular stands out about those times for Von Reichbauer. The night they passed the statewide levy to fund the public portion of the Seahawks, Allen put on a show of his own.
Paul took his guitar and we played at Union Station, and he took his guitar up on the stage and played it like crazy. He loved his Purple Rain, and he was just amazing.
I am very excited.
Well, Von Reichbauer says it is remarkable what Allen accomplished. He says the man learned so much from his father, who was the assistant librarian at the University of Washington, as well as his mother, who was a notable benefactor in her day. That tradition of philanthropy became a calling card for the rest of Allen's life. Now, here, too, there was a suddenness about Allen's passing that caught Von Reichbauer and his colleagues off guard. However, they say that Allen's imprint will always be with us. Live here in Seattle, Joel Marino, KOMO News.
Indeed, Paul Allen's contributions to technology were enormous. He co-founded Microsoft in 1975 with childhood friend Bill Gates. KOMO's Steve McCarran is live at the company's headquarters in Redmond tonight. Steve?
Mary, Allen played such a crucial role in the creation of this company that has grown to one of the most recognizable in the world, with tens of thousands of employees, many of them here in Redmond. A short time ago, we had a chance to walk through the visitor center here at the Microsoft campus in Redmond. It has all sorts of memorabilia from the company's early years through today. Among those mementos is a large photo of Microsoft's first 11 employees, including Allen and Bill Gates. You also see one of Allen's original business cards from Microsoft's first official office in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and some of the original code that Allen and Gates wrote for BASIC during their years at Harvard. You think about how technology and personal computers have evolved so much since then, and how widely they are used around the Northwest and around the world. Microsoft moved to Bellevue back in 1979. Allen left 4 years later after being diagnosed with lymphoma, but he remained with the company's board. The current CEO of Microsoft released a statement today saying Allen's contributions are indispensable. He said, quote, as co-founder of Microsoft, in his own quiet and persistent way, Allen created magical products, experiences, and institutions, and in doing so, he changed the world. The CEO says he has learned so much from Allen. His inquisitiveness, curiosity, and push for high standards is something that will continue to inspire him and everyone here at Microsoft. The company's CEO adds that his heart is with Allen's family and and loved ones tonight, and may he rest in peace. Live in Redmond, Steve McCarran, KOMO News.
Looking back on Alan's life, it's apparent there was very little that didn't interest him. He also had the heart of an explorer. Last year, an expedition spearheaded by Alan discovered the wreckage of the USS Indianapolis on the floor of the Pacific Ocean in more than 18,000 feet of water. It's one of many sunken boats found through Alan's Vulcan Marine Research Team.
Owning professional sports franchises is just a small part of what Paul Allen contributed to the Pacific Northwest. But to those of us here in the Seattle area, it meant the world when he stepped up and kept the Hawks from slipping away to Los Angeles. KOMO's Jessica Taff is here with more on that.
Yeah, Eric, you know, there are all kinds of owners professional teams can have, from the brash George Steinbrenners to the Mark Cubans, who are just as present as the team players and coaches. And then there's Paul Allen, who was relatively hands-off. He was a billionaire philanthropist who quietly built winning teams in Seattle and Portland, along with contributing to their communities in ways as well beyond sports. But for sports fans here in Seattle, they will always be grateful for the purchase of the Seahawks that saved the team from relocation. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell saying today, Allen was the driving force behind keeping the team and the NFL in the Pacific Northwest. Allen was a visionary for CenturyLink Field and the raising of the 12th flag to honor the team's fan base. Allen also had a part in the stake of the Seattle Sounders, as well as ownership of the NBA's Portland Trailblazers. Today, League Commissioner Adam Silver called Allen the ultimate trailblazer in business, philanthropy, and sports. As for what's next, Sports Business Radio tweeting today that there's been a plan in place for the Blazers and Seahawks ownership for a couple of years now. In the event of Paul Allen's death, Paul's sister Jody does not want to own either team, according to their sources, so look for both to be sold by Allen's estate. Now, Allen purchased the Seahawks for $194 million in 1996. The team is now worth $2.58 billion. The NFL now saying today that they're not going to comment on the future ownership of the team in respect for the Allen family, but they certainly do have a say in who does own the team coming up.
You know, we've heard so much about him loving sports and loving music. Yep. We've seen some shots of him playing the guitar. I want to read a quote to you from no less than Quincy Jones, who said, "You know who sings and plays just like Jimi Hendrix? Paul Allen." I mean, he wasn't some hack up there. When he set out to do something, he did it right.
Unbelievable. Renaissance man.
Thanks, Jess. Paul Allen didn't just save football in Seattle. He saved a lot of things. His $500,000 donation, for instance, to radio station KEXP in 2016 helped the station hit its fundraising goal for its new home at Seattle Center. 15 years earlier, Allen helped KEXP move off campus from the University of Washington to its location in South Lake Union. And in a statement, the station said, "It would not be an overstatement to say that KEXP would not exist as it does today without the backing of Paul Allen at a crucial time." Stick with the KOMO News Network throughout the evening and in the days and weeks ahead as we look back on the remarkable life and career of Paul Allen. We'll have much more on KOMO TV, KOMO News Radio, and online at KOMOnews.com. You can also share your condolences to the Allen family on the KOMO News Facebook page.